forget because there we go. All right. So yes, this webinar will be recorded, and after it's done, you will get an email with the link to the recording. So don't worry about frantically writing everything down. We're talking today about 3 techniques to revamp a stale campaign. So this is actually a very information-heavy webinar. I expect that it will take a good 50 minutes, and then I always make sure we have time for questions, or if I'm running a little bit over, because I tend to ramble a little as much as I try to stop myself. I will try to leave at least 5 minutes for questions, but Campbell and I also I don't have a hard stop at 11. So if we have lots of questions, we can always just go over. So let's get started. In case you're wondering what we look like, there is our gorgeous Campbell and myself. Campbell is our awesome implementation manager. So if you have any need for help to get your campaign started, Campbell is your dude. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? The 3 things that we're going to talk about in terms of revamping a stale campaign are your content, the marketing, and a strategy overhaul. So you can kind of see right away that, yes, this is going to be a bit information heavy. This basically goes over the main points of a good crowdfunding campaign in an overview, with focuses on the most important parts. So all of this will make sense as we go through it. All right, so first things first, let's look at the campaign content. Are you communicating effectively? Go, there we go. All right, so I don't know if any of you have seen our 7 points of storytelling. We do have a toolkit on this, and we run a full webinar on it as well. So we're not going to go over all of it right now, but what we are going to talk about is these 2 parts. I was going to say the last 2 parts, but no, we're not going to go over call to action yet. We're going to go over the units of impact and quid pro quo. And the reason I want to do this is because these are the 2 things that people tend to forget the most, or, well, not forget, they just don't think to include. Spacebar working. There we go. So this is a quote from a research study done by the Lilly School of Philanthropy. It says, donors expressed a greater desire for nonprofit organizations to communicate the impact of programs and services and to be informed in more engaging and personal ways. So what does that mean for you? Units of impact. This means it's time to get creative, folks. Units of impact are what we use to communicate the value of a donation to the donor. So a really good example of units of impact is the Worry Monster campaign. This is the Worry Monster. He's a really cute little dude. So let's take a look at this campaign and see what it's about. I'm just going to hide this here. There we go. So the Worry Monster campaign was run a couple of years ago by the Pathstone Foundation in Niagara Falls in Ontario. And this campaign was all about helping children who had a lot of anxiety around COVID. So this campaign ran in the last part of 2020 and into May of 2021. So right when the effects of COVID were at its strongest, and a lot of children didn't really understand what was going on, which is fair, and needed a bit of help to work through the anxieties that they had. So their answer to this was this little Worry Monster. So the story about the Worry Monster is it's a little doll that that kids would receive, and then they can write down what their anxieties are in a safe space in their home, in their bedroom. And then they put that little note into the Worry Monster's mouth, and they zip it closed, and the Worry Monster, eats it for breakfast. So it's a bit of visualization technique, but they also would bring that doll to their counseling session at Pathstone Foundation, and their counselor would open the doll's mouth and read out their worries, and then they would talk about it with the child together. So it's a really great way for a child to safely and confidently express their anxieties and have someone knowledgeable go through those anxieties with them. So this campaign is all about getting Worry Monster dolls in the hands of kids whose families might not be able to afford it. So this Worry Monster doll became their unit of impact. So they had, actually at first they had a $6,500 goal. And this was such a successful campaign that they killed that goal in about 24 hours, and they kept upping it until they actually had to end it because there are only so many of these dolls that they could get. So how they communicated this in their campaign was by putting in actual units of impact wish list items to communicate to the donor what the value of their donation is. So imagine we don't have this this little bit right here, and I'm a donor and I'm going in and I'm thinking, okay, I could donate $25 to this campaign. That's as much as I have budgeted for my contributions for the month, whatever, that's how much I can give. If I have $25 to give and I look at a $10,000 goal, I might think, wow, how much of an impact am I actually making? I still might make that donation, but it might turn me off a little bit, or I might not understand how I could actually help this child, this adorable little girl right here. By doing this, by having these wish list items as a unit of impact, I can see right now that $30, and this is in Canadian dollars, $30 would give a child one of these dolls. So if I just add $5 to my initial idea of how much I wanted to give, I would actually change the life of one person, one child. And that is going to give me the endorphin boost that I am looking for. So when we contribute to crowdfunding campaigns, it's not necessarily to get something physical for ourselves. We want that good feeling. So if I just donated my initial $25, I might think, okay, I probably helped someone, and then go about my day and maybe not, consider what the impact was. But if I, in name, put one of these Worry Monster dolls in the hand of a child, I'm going to feel that much better. I'm going to feel really good because I know that I have changed the life of one person. And then they also added how much a counseling session would be for a child, and then how much, and a Worry Monster, and how much a Worry Monster, a counseling session, and a parent workshop would be. So you can see how this is easier to communicate with units of impact rather than trying to say, okay, well, your donations would go to our programs where we would help a kid and go through his anxieties. That's all very high level and superfluous, but this is more specific and more communicative. Let's go back to our. So what happens if you don't really have a tangible thing that you're giving someone? There is another way that you can do this. You can talk about what those donations kind of equal to. So another example of this is the Fresh Roots campaign, Make It So. So let's take a look at this one. So the Make It So campaign is by Fresh Roots, and their organization helps underprivileged inner city kids, or students mostly, in the Vancouver area. It gives them an opportunity to go to a farm, learn not only how to grow their own food, but how to market and sell their own food, like in actual markets. So this is not only giving them helpful skills to grow food, but it's also giving them leadership experience, sales experience, all kinds of different experiences, and they actually pay them. So this is not just, a program that they pay to get into to learn, they get paid. So it's a really awesome program. But there's not a tangible item that you could contribute to as a unit of impact. So what they do instead is they communicate approximately what your donation is worth in terms of the program itself. So I just want to let you guys know, because I'm signed into Fundraiser, we're looking at the administration view of all of these campaigns. If you ever want to see what campaigns look like to the public, your campaign, then you can always click the preview campaign button right here. And this is what it would look like to the public. But let's take a look at these units of impact. You can go as low as $10, and that's a row of carrots. That's, maybe that row is what this student is focused on taking care of. And again, that's kind of like our worry monster doll. This is what will help him get through this program. Then we have things such as 1 day of soil programming. Soil is what the program is called. Building supplies, a week of pre-employment experience, community educator. So they actually need to pay people to come in and teach these students. So that's how much that would be. All the way up to a full week of the program for a youth participant. So sometimes you have to take a step back and get creative in your units of impact, but I promise you, everyone has something. It doesn't have to be a tangible item. It can be an experience, but it's just a way to communicate to your supporters what the value is of their donation. All right, let's continue. The second part of the story that we're going to talk about that a lot of people tend to miss is the quid pro quo. So what are you giving your donors in return? And sometimes this can be a tangible item. So an example that we're going to use is the Crusoe campaign. So this is Crusoe, and Crusoe is, one of those Instagram stars. He's an Instagram doggy. And a few years ago now, actually, his owner was raising funds for the Crusoe Fund because Crusoe here has some sort of condition. I can't remember if it's with his kidneys or his livers, but it's some sort of specified condition that Cornell University is doing some research into. So what they did was they raised funds for Cornell University to study this specific disease in dogs using Crusoe himself. So they had tangible items to give back to their donors. So whether it was a thank you letter or a bracelet or a t-shirt or 3 t-shirts and all of the above, even a Zoom call. I love this because Crusoe and his little doggy sister Daphne are internet stars. One of the perks that they offered was a Zoom call with them, which is really adorable. So that can be one way to say, yes, I'm giving you something in exchange for your donation, a tangible thing. If you have that, great, but you don't need to have that. What I'm talking about a little bit more when I mention quid pro quo is not the tangible items. It is the updates that you have. So with updates, you don't necessarily have things to update with right away. This can be a bit confusing for some people, but I want to show what updates can be when you don't have physical items to give. So this campaign here was started at the beginning of COVID because this organization, Basanta Adventure Treks and Expedition, they have 16 employees that are the trekking guides and cooks that bring people up Mount Everest to base camp. So when COVID started, I have a lot of COVID examples this webinar. When COVID started, obviously travel halted, and these 16 employees in Nepal didn't have any income, and they were not able to provide the basic necessities to their families, which equated to about 70 people. So these 16 workers, these 16 guides and cooks, were taking care of 70 people in their families, and they didn't have any government assistance that we were lucky enough to have. And they had no other way of income because travel was closed to the country. So they had to shut operations down. So this campaign was to help them get through until their operations could start up again. And I'm happy to report that they did, and everyone is all happy and healthy right now. They even got through the flooding and the landslides that happened that same year. So what these guys used as updates were bios of the 16 guides. So they didn't really have updates to give because that whole year, nothing was really happening. But instead, they thanked you for your help. This was the last update they gave. But instead, they talked about who these people were as updates. And I think that is wonderful. This keeps bringing people back to your campaign. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works in a little bit. It brings people back to your campaign, and they might also contribute more. You know, if I contributed to this campaign in, let's say I contributed to this campaign in June. If an update is given to me in July, I'm going to click on that update because it's going to email me and say, hey, Shannon, this campaign that you contributed to has been updated. Check out this update. I'm going to check out that update, and it's going to be July. Maybe I got paid again, and maybe I'll go, maybe I'll go, oh, hey, I can contribute another $25 to this campaign. So it not only brings people back to your campaign where they might be inclined to contribute more, but the most important part is it gives these people, your supporters, more things to share to try to encourage their own network to contribute as well. So when we go to these updates, you can see that down here, there's a share button, and I can share this campaign directly to Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And I can easily share it other places as well. But what this does is it gives different and new content to share. So there's a very famous rule in Marketing 101, the rule of 7, saying that we need to see something about 7 times in order to recognize it as a brand. So if I got this campaign right away in my email or shared or something like that, it's probably because I know these people. Maybe I used this guide or this company, somehow I know them, but my friends don't know them. So if I shared this once, they might go, oh, that's sad, that's cool, whatever. But if I keep sharing these updates and say, hey, like, why don't you learn about Netra, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Or why don't you learn about the cook, Kunchuk? If I keep sharing this, then my friends are eventually going to go, okay, what is this about? And then they're probably going to click on it more. And then, the 8th, 9th time I share it, they're going to go, all right, I'm missing out on something. So they're probably going to be a little bit more invested in this and more likely to contribute themselves. So updates are an amazing way to promote your campaign and grow your audience. And I want to share a graph with you. And I put this graph, unfortunately, in the wrong space. So I'm going to have to go over here and pull this slide over. Whoop. There we go. So this is a graph showing a campaign that ran for 2 months over the holiday season, which is not a popular time to run campaigns because, especially in North America, this is a North American campaign. That's the holiday season. So there's not a whole lot of donations going on in the holiday season, surprisingly enough. Usually it happens around the end of November, around Giving Tuesday, starting with Giving Tuesday and running through November. And then everyone's more focused on their holiday events. So a star here represents each time this campaign was updated. And you can see that the beginning of the campaign, we had an uptick in donations, which is pretty expected. And then in the middle of the campaign, it kind of drops down. And this is 100% expected. This is exactly how campaigns go. You have an uptick at the beginning, and then you put in updates. And you'll see here that there are small upticks of donations each time, like right after, the day after the update is posted, or the day the update is posted. It really depends on what time of day the update happened. So if it was at the beginning of the day, then more donations are going to happen on that day. If it was at the end of the day, then more donations are going to happen at the days after. So you can see there's pretty much a tick, except for this one. I don't know what happened here. I think this might have been like right before Christmas. So it was like the middle. But this one, I'm pretty sure, I looked this up. This one happened on the 24th. So on the 24th, on Christmas Eve, there was a good uptick in donations because of an update. So it doesn't make huge differences at once, but collectively, this helps keep the momentum of your donations going until you get to the end. So the end date of this campaign was January 31st. And we made sure to have updates ready so that we let everyone know the campaign is ending. So that's where whoop, we got a huge uptick in donations here. Okay, so that is the power of updates. Okay, so that is updates. Now, how are you sharing? How you are sharing is very important. There are a lot of ways to share. You need to use as many ways as possible, and you need to use them more than once. So let's look at all of the ways that you can share to make sure that you are doing it. So there is direct social media. So that is Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Pretty self-explanatory. You can just share your campaign to your Facebook accounts. And these buttons exist for your supporters as well. So this is how they are sharing. So you're not only sharing this campaign, you're asking your supporters to share this campaign, and they can do it in the exact same way that you can do it. And just click these buttons and share to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. This is actually dark media, so Facebook Messenger, more private, but that is an option as well. And then there's I don't know, I have indirect social media here. This is indirect social media because you can't actually post directly to Instagram and TikTok. So I'm sorry if you know all of this already, but there are definitely some people who do not. You cannot post a link directly into a Instagram post or a TikTok post unless you have a certain amount of followers. So you do have to get a bit creative with these guys. You only have one link that you're able to post in your bio of Instagram and TikTok. So when you make a post promoting your campaign, you have to say that there is the link to this campaign in your bio. So you make a wonderful video to post on Instagram or TikTok. You can do that right on your Instagram newsfeed, on your profile, or in your stories, and just say, here's what our campaign is about. Please contribute. Link is in bio. Unless you have the ability to put links directly in your story, you would have to say that in your post. If you have an Instagram post, you'd have to say link in bio or check out our story with the direct link there. You can very easily make free videos if you like. There's lots of online video apps that use just the pictures and videos that you have on your phone. Even the free versions of these video creation apps have like stock music and stock photos and videos that you can integrate to make it really creative. They just would put their own watermark on if you don't have a paid version. If you have a budget, then you can pay. I think a lot of them are really very minimal, maybe $100 to $200 a year. And then that's like the basic plan. And then you wouldn't have their watermark on your video. You can put your own brand on your video. But if you have no budget whatsoever, then you can use the free version of things like Animoto or Lumen 5, or there's so many now. There are so many. If you just go online and search video creation apps, you will get a lot. And just know that you can use the free version. It will have their watermark on it, or you can use a paid version. Shop around. A lot of them are really quite affordable. You can use email lists. So if you have an email list already, and these are good quality email lists, then you can upload them into your campaign so that when you're ready to launch, it will email out to everyone saying, hey, this campaign is launched and ready. And you're effectively subscribing everyone to that campaign. So they will get the update notifications as well. So you do that here in the communications center. So you click communications and then you'll see an option called contacts. And you can import those contacts into your campaign list and effectively subscribe them all to that list. Now, there's a bit of a but with that. If you're doing this, that means that you are legally able to subscribe them to this campaign list. So we are a Canadian company, which means that we have to follow Canadian anti-spam legislation. So what this means is your updated lists, or sorry, your uploaded lists have to be of high quality. So these are people who know who you are. They know that they have signed on to your marketing, specifically marketing email lists, and they are real lists. So if you upload a bot marketing email list, for example, or just every single email that you have in your inbox ever, you are going to have a lot of problems with that, because when the email gets sent out to these people notifying them of the campaign, if it gets marked as spam, or if if it's not a receivable email address, so if it's like a no reply email address, that's going to ruin your sender reputation, and it's going to ruin fundraisers sender reputation. So what that's going to do is it's going to put a very bad name on both your organization and fundraiser, and we are going to get a notification, and we are probably going to shut your campaign down. It's very easy to not have this happen. You just need to make sure that your list that you're uploading is of very high quality. So do not use bot marketing lists. We actually do not allow that for this reason, because if you use a bot list, no one is going to recognize the name fundraiser. No one is going to recognize your organization name, and they're probably going to mark it as spam. So when you mark something as spam, it sends something back to your IP address, which is our IP address, saying this was spam. And if you get a lot of that, it's going to hurt your sender reputation. So make sure it is of high quality, or we will unfortunately shut your campaign down. But this rarely happens, so it's very easy to avoid. If you have MailChimp, you can integrate directly with MailChimp. And it's very easy. It's just in your marketing tab, you can just upload your MailChimp, not upload, insert your MailChimp credentials and it'll connect. If you don't have MailChimp, if you have something else like Constant Contact or Salesforce or something like that, there's an integration feature called Zapier that you can use. So Zapier is kind of a middleman API. It takes stuff from one place and puts it into another. So we have integration capabilities with Zapier. It doesn't cost anything on our side, but it does cost on Zapier's side. So if you have a budget, then you can integrate your email lists from those outside sources right into Fundraiser using Zapier. Otherwise, it would be sort of a manual enter. Okay, we also have text to give. Now, text to give is different from text to donate. Text to donate has kind of gone out the window. It's not really very popular anymore. Text to donate was when you could text a number and then you would essentially have that donation put on your cell phone bill. That doesn't happen anymore. Text to give is essentially just a marketing form to text a link automatically to a number. So this works really well in, for example, live events, or if you have like printed marketing that you don't want to use a QR code, or you can get really creative with this. But essentially what happens is it's a number that you can promote, a phone number, and a potential supporter would text that number and immediately have a campaign link texted back to them. And then they could click on the link and they would have the link. So it's really good for if you can't send the link to a bunch of people in a way, and you need to say just advertise on a screen at an event. You could say, hey, donate to our campaign, text this number, and you will get the link to the campaign. How that works is you would go to your marketing tab, so edit in your sidebar menu, and then marketing, and then you would enable text to give, and you would create your own campaign code. It's a code that would have to not exist already, so you can't use demo campaign because I took it. And then if you're in the US, everyone would just have to text that number. If you're in Canada, they would have to text that number. So I'm sorry, this only works for US and Canada right now. There is a QR code. So this little button here is in the share bar on your campaign. If you click that, you will also get the short link, but you would also get the QR code. So if you have flyers or, maybe a small TV media ad or something like that, you can put this QR code right on there, and then people just scan it with their cameras and go right to the campaign. Very simple. Smart widgets. So our smart widgets are something that you can put onto your web page to make a seamless integration into your campaign. So how widgets work are you can create different size badges, and I'll show you what those badges look like. But they would kind of look like this, and they would have your campaign photo, depending on what type of badge you have, the title, who it is, a little descriptor, and a thermometer bar with how far you are. And you can either view the campaign or go directly into the contribution flow. You can set this up on your webpage or someone else's webpage who's promoting for you to open up as an overlay onto your webpage. So it really doesn't even look like they're leaving your webpage. So it's really good for social proof, for fact that this campaign is actually being run by you. And it's a great way to show your campaign on your website without it just being a simple, just worded link. Looks a lot better. And there are actually more widget options than this, but these are 3 different options. So you have tall widgets like this, you have wide widgets like this, and then you could also just have a donate button. If you are an organization that runs a donation button or a donation form on your webpage, maybe through PayPal or another service that you have to pay for, just so you know, you can actually link a donate button to a donation form on Fundraiser, and we don't charge you anything for that. So if you are doing that and you want a cheaper version, you can actually do that with Fundraiser too. Okay, so this is where we get into a little bit more of you have to do some work to get your campaign out there. One thing that people are starting to do that is very popular are using influencers. And influencers can be, local influencers in your community, maybe an MP, maybe a very popular coffee shop, bookshop, community center, anyone who has something to do with what you're campaigning for. You can work out some sort of a quid pro quo. You market this campaign for me to your following, and we'll do something for you. You usually have to do that bit of back and forth there. I'm just going to wait for this large truck to go by. Very large truck to go by. But you will have to get creative, and you will probably have to reach out a lot to find someone who's willing to work with you. This can be, social media influencers as well. So, maybe you have a dog shelter. There are tons of people with thousands of followers running TikTok and Instagram accounts for their dogs. And if you follow any, you might notice that sometimes they promote fundraising campaigns. And this is what they're doing it for. They have people who have a campaign who want to use their audience. So influencers are becoming one of the most popular ways of growing a crowd and crowdfunding today. News outlets. I love the fact that I found an old school radio for this because, traditional news media still exists. local media is a really great way of getting the word out. So whether that's a local TV station, paper, radio station, whatever, consider news media as well. I'm going to go by really quickly now because we are starting to lose time. Ad space, if you have the budget, then you can always just buy ad space, on Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, in local papers, on local websites, that kind of idea. Consider ad space as well. And then engage your donors. So crowdfunding is not always just about that one campaign. It is about your future campaigns as well. So you always want to be considering relationship building as you're campaigning, because the better the relationship you create with your supporters, the more likely they're going to donate again when you have a future campaign, or even donate again in this campaign. So the best way to do that is just a simple thank you. On Fundraiser, every contribution you can comment on. So, this is the Pathstone Worry Monster campaign. So every time someone contributed, Michelle here, who ran the campaign, she just gave a simple thank you. And that's really nice for the donor. It will email out to them saying that there's a comment on their contribution, and then they can go back and say, oh, well, they thanked me. That's really nice. And if they went back, it's the same idea as updates. They're back to your campaign now. They can even share the fact that you thanked them on their campaign. So engage your donors, give them updates that are engaging, pictures, videos, poems, stories, whatever you like, and thank them, engage them, and make them love you. This is the updates. So let's just talk about it again. Updates. Make sure you update. And there's our fun graph again. Okay, now it's time to review your campaign plans. So if you've gotten to this point, you've looked over your story, you're updating lots, you're sharing lots, and you still find that you're not grabbing the attention that you need for this campaign, it might be time to review the campaign and see if we have planned it and launched it as best as we could have. So the best way to do this is what I call the divide by 5 rule. So this does involve some math, but it's very easy math. The divide by 5 rule is a very general, very, very general rule to see if you have the audience that you need to fund your project. So what this means is the audience that you have, are they likely to view your campaign, and are they likely to donate to your campaign? So if you're wondering if your crowd is big enough, then you need to use the average donation and the average conversion rate to figure out if your campaign, or if your audience is going to fund that goal that you have. So on Fundraiser, the average donation is about $100 USD. The average conversion rate, which is the number of people who donate versus visits a campaign, is around 5%. So if you know your own average donation, and if you know your own average conversion rate, then you can kind of do the same way. But basically it's the goal. So say you have a $10,000 goal. If you divide that goal by 100, so 100 is the average donation. So yeah, you have a $10,000 donation. I really should have written this down. You have a $10,000 donation, you divide it by $100, and that's the number of people you need to donate. But then we need to divide by 5%, which is the conversion rate, because not everyone who looks at your campaign is going to donate to your campaign. So if about 5% of those people donate, then that would be, you take your goal, you divide it by 100, which is the number of people you need to donate, and then you need to divide by 0.05 to determine what that number 5% is of. So for those of you who are angry about that, who are like, oh my God, Shannon, I can't. Basically, it's 100 divided by 0.5, which is essentially the same as dividing by 5. So you would take your goal. In this case, our goal is 10,000. And you would divide it by 5. And I'm going to open my calculator because my brain is not working today, obviously. 10,000 divided by 5 is 2,000. So we would need approximately 2,000 audience members looking at our campaign in order to hit our $10,000 goal. That seems like a huge number, and it is. $10,000 is a huge number. It's going to take a lot of people to get there. So we know now that if we have a $10,000 goal, we need to reach at least 2,000 people and get them to our campaign. So if you look at your email lists and your social media followers and you are well short of that goal, then you probably need to reduce that goal a little bit, unless you are working hard on increasing your audience. But if you need to run this campaign right now and you don't have that audience that you need, then perhaps it's time to consider another strategy. So that's what we're trying to get at here, is you need to make sure you have the audience to fund your goal. And if you don't, then let's consider a different strategy. One strategy are micro projects. And I'm going to go really quickly here because we are running short of time. But we do have a blog post now that describes all about micro projects. What micro projects are essentially are taking a big project and dividing them down into smaller, easier to handle projects that might attract different people. So a good example of this is the Commemorative Air Force in the United States. Every year they run a 12 Planes of Christmas campaign to help restore some of the old warplanes that they use in their shows and presentations now. So to do that, they don't run one campaign to try to fund all of their planes. They run micro projects where they have one goal, one main campaign, one goal, and then a bunch of sub campaigns for each individual plane, which has individual stories and are run. These campaigns are run by different branches of the Commemorative Air Force. So rather than just one big campaign, they split it up. They split up the work, they split up the stories, and every year they hit a pretty monumental goal, like over $200,000. So this is a very big example, but if you go on our blog and we'll show you where to get those, then you can read a little bit more up on micro projects and learn how that might be able to help you. You can also grow your crowd in the different examples that I explained earlier. You can grow your crowd, you can buy, you can build, you can borrow a crowd. But this is the variable that we want to look at in the equation of crowd size. So if you've determined that you do not have the crowd to fund your project, then that is what needs to change. So if you determine that you have the crowd, but they're just not donating, then maybe we need to look at the story. Maybe we need to look at micro projects, et cetera, et cetera. But if you do not have the crowd, then you're going to need to build that crowd. So we do have a toolkit that's called build, buy, and borrow your crowd. And you might find that extremely helpful in this situation. One really easy way, not easy, but one great way of growing your crowd are peer-to-peer campaigns. So if you're running a campaign right now and you're not getting there, it's okay to stop and start anew with some of these different ideas. So one of these ideas is a peer-to-peer campaign, because you don't want to ask your current donors for more funds, but why not ask them to be a fundraiser for you? So peer-to-peer campaigns are usually based around an event like a race. And then you're not only talking to your community, but you're talking to your community's community. So your fundraisers each get their own page that we call a sub-campaign to personalize and share to their network. And that's an excellent way to grow your donor base, and it happens fast. And that's why this strategy is becoming more and more popular among charities now. Yeah, I didn't think I posted that link. So you can look up this campaign if you like, or you can just go to fundraiser and look up different peer-to-peer campaigns. There are a bunch. But these are the campaigns that have high goals because they have the potential to reach large audiences. Obviously, you need to be okay with planning a peer-to-peer event, but those peer-to-peer events can be virtual too, especially with COVID happening. Even though the world is opening up again, we're having events again. Virtual peer-to-peer events allow people to participate in your event from where they are. So if it's a race, maybe they just run 5 kilometers on their treadmill or in their local park or whatnot. But there are ways to engage your community into doing this. And again, this is why we run full webinars, full toolkits on peer-to-peer campaigns alone, because they have a lot happening for them. So it's a great way to increase your donations, but it does require a little bit of work, but it's not that bad. So if you're curious, talk to us about it. Okay, so we did go over a lot of information today. We talked about your campaign content, we talked about your marketing, and then we talked about overhauling your strategy completely if what you're doing right now isn't working for you. So there are a bunch of resources to help you. So let's show you where these resources are. So Fundraisers Help Center. So this is the technical how to work the platform. We have full-on articles for even peer-to-peer campaigns, how to run them, how to do registration for them. This is sort of like the how to technically do it. Connection Point, if you don't know, Connection Point is the company that owns Fundraiser. So Fundraiser is just one of our platforms. Crowdfunder and CocoPay are two others, but they all work the same way. So it's one help center for all three. That's why it looks a little bit different. There's also our blog. So fundraiser.com/blog. This is our blog. There's full articles again on peer-to-peer campaigns, on marketing, on story writing, lots and lots of access now. Or you can go to the fundraiser hub. So if I click here, so this is the fundraiser hub, and you can see that I'm not even signed in. I'm only signed in if I want to participate in the forums. But other than that, you have access for free to our toolkits. So strategy toolkits, I wrote all of these. So what I talk about in my webinars are based on the research and the experience that I have in each of these. So campaign strategy, how to promote. This is that build, buy, borrow one. The ultimate guide to peer-to-peer campaigns. Here you go. This is a great one. The micro project blog is in here. So if you go to Shan's Corner, this is my little corner. That's not my dog. I wish he was. And then there's micro projects right here. So learn more about micro projects right here. Okay. Campbell, I think that's it. We have 10 minutes if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself there and just use the question and answer function. Sorry, or you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. But yeah, feel free to type those questions in so that we can get to them and have the kind of conversation discussion.
It's okay if no one has any questions. That just means I either overwhelmed you or I did a really good job. I'm going to go with overwhelmed. That is a lot.
Great. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions this time. So please feel free to drop it in office hours, reach out to our support team or connect with Shannon and I. We'd be happy to help out and look at your project. And ultimately, our success is your success. And thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a really great day, really great weekend coming up.